Philip O'Reilly. I wanted to quickly go over some of the principles that are covered in the first chapter or two of the Courtney text that are applicable both to microeconomics and macroeconomics. I'm going to try to fly through these, and at the end I'll make some applications to the current healthcare debate so that it'll be something that's applicable both to microeconomics and macroeconomics students. In economics, two of the critical assumptions that we make are that people pursue their self-interests and people have insatiable desires. Now, we didn't say insatiable needs, we said insatiable desires. We'll talk about that here in a bit. One of the implications of this assumption that people have insatiable desires is since we live in a finite world, we have finite resources, there's a conflict between the insatiable desires and the finite resources, and that conflict creates scarcity. That is, there is always more demand for economic goods than we have economic goods to go around. So this scarcity implies that some rationing mechanism has to take place. We have to figure out who is going to get the scarce economic resources and in what quantity, because there is a conflict over those economic goods. That is, there are competing demands for those goods. How are we going to resolve those competing demands without fights or violence breaking out? And there are basically three methods. We could have a queuing method. That is, people could stand in line for the economic good, and when your turn comes, you get a certain amount of the economic good. We could have a government edict, that the government determines who should get the economic good, or we could have a market mechanism. That is, we could allocate the economic goods through a price system. And the more scarce the good and the more demand there is for it, the higher the price. The more abundant the good, or the lower the demand for it, the lower the price. So some principles to remember. The first one is there is no free lunch. That is, for any economic good, someone is going to pay for that economic good. It may be the person who receives the economic good, or it may be someone else, but it is going to have to be paid for. This is closely related to the concept of opportunity cost in economics. The second principle to remember is that people make incremental decisions. So if you have two choices that are facing you, you compare what economists would call the marginal costs and marginal benefits of one decision to the marginal costs and marginal benefits of another decision. Whenever I use the term marginal, you can substitute the word incremental or additional if that is easier for you to remember. But let's take the current decision facing individuals who do not have health insurance under the Healthcare Reform Act. So you have a choice. You could purchase health insurance, or you could forego the purchase of health insurance. If you purchase health insurance, you pay a $5,000 premium, and your benefit is you're insured. If you forego the purchase of the health insurance, you pay a $3,500 penalty to the IRS, and the benefit is you're insured. So what decision are self-interested individuals going to make? In many cases, they're going to forego the purchase of health insurance in order to save $1,500 because the benefit is going to be roughly the same. A third principle to remember is that policy decisions of government officials have secondary effect. To put it another way, it doesn't matter what the intentions of legislators or regulators is. What is important is what incentives are put in place by regulations or laws, and how are people going to respond to those incentives when they are pursuing their self-interest. So one of the reasons why I wanted to make this little video is that there seems to be a disconnect between the theory that I think students generally understand and their application to it. So let's see if we can take one example here of an article that you could find in the Washington Times right here. It is families titled Families, Are You Sure You Want to Repeal Healthcare Reform Act? And it goes through and talks about the benefits of the Healthcare Reform Act. And it says here, for example, under the Act, insurers cannot charge a copay for preventative health services, including immunizations, pediatric visits, etc. So what does this imply from an economic standpoint? First, let's say, is it good that kids get health care? Of course it is good, but the issue is who is going to pay for it and what are the ramifications of a policy that mandates that there are no copays for preventative health care services. Okay. So if your objective is to make health insurance more affordable, is this type of mandate going to accomplish that? And the answer is no. Why? Because there is no free lunch. Someone is going to have to pay for these doctor services. Now, it may be the insured through a copay or higher premium costs. If they require that the insured person pays a copay, well, they're going to be able to reduce the premium costs, and as long as there is competition among insurance companies, there's going to be some incentive for them to reduce their premiums in order to get more customers. Okay. So someone is going to have to pay that copay. Who's it going to be? We also see here that there is an implication in this that these services are free. But again, obviously they are not. So you need to read articles like this with a healthy skepticism. Oh, here we go, right here. I knew there was something here. Free annual wellness visits. Okay. Again, one of the quick ways to get your grade reduced in any economics class is to use free as an adjective before some noun that has to do with economic resources. So free annual wellness visits. Well, that is deceptive because someone is going to pay for that. And it's going to have to be one of two groups, either the person who is insured or taxpayers. Okay, so when you are evaluating an issue like this, or any policy issue, government policy, remember these principles that we've discussed here and try to look at the government policies, for the purposes of this class at least, through the prism of the economic assumptions that we've talked about.